Hello everyone, welcome to my course on designing a professional fashion collection. In this chapter, we will take a look at the different elements of the design process. The design process follows a typical flow. Let's begin by looking at the different steps or elements of the design process. We start when the designer finds his source of inspiration. It can be through nature or the personal life of the designer. He then moves on to create mood boards, vision boards, trend boards, and style boards, followed by 2D fashion illustrations. At this stage, the merchandising team assists the designer from a commercial point of view by giving him insights as to which garments and accessories he should or must design in order for the brand to sell a complete set of options to their customers. Once the merchandising is outlined, patterns are developed for each garment, followed by the technical file. We then produce samples for each garment in the collection plan. Once the final pieces are validated by the design team and the merchandising is finalized, the final looks are created for the fashion show or the presentation, along with the post production lookbook to be distributed to various collaborators such as clients, wholesalers, retailers, etc., with whom the brand works. Because the design and research phase is much broader than the construction phase, I will first explain you the garment construction process and then we'll see how to design fashion. So, when we talk about fashion design or someone introduces himself or herself as a designer to an industry professional, they are often asked to specify their specialization. Are they more of a pattern maker or rather inclined towards creative research and drawing? Because both of these aspects are completely different, which means that a good fashion designer might or might not be a good pattern maker and vice versa. For new fashion students or for entrepreneurs who are not designers themselves but are looking to hire designers, it might be extremely confusing to differentiate between the two skill sets. Pattern making is more of a mathematical and calculative task. Every product which is produced in a factory or on an industrial scale has a technical specification or a blueprint which is followed to the T in order to produce or construct product in question. Let's say for example a car. When the car designer draws a car illustration on paper along with the color options, he then needs to be able to communicate his idea with the utmost precision to the manufacturing plant with exact technical measurements of each part to be assembled, along with the assembly procedure to be followed. This document is called a technical file, and a similar document is necessary to be prepared for the production of a garment as well. So let's say a designer draws a rough sketch of a garment on paper using pencils and colors, using simply his or her imagination. At this stage, the sketch is just a freehand drawing. The designer is not yet sure of the exact measurements of the jacket or how it should be cut in the actual fabric and sewn to be stitched together. All these details are called technical specifications, and only a professional and experienced pattern maker can help the designer to finalize these specs. Hence, he will approach a pattern maker who will help the designer in realizing his 2D drawing into a 3D garment. A pattern is actually nothing but the individual pieces of fabrics which are cut separately in fabric and sewn together to make the final garment. I will not delve into the pattern making process as it is an entirely different subject. It cannot be explained in a single session. So, once the designer has explained his inspiration and drawing to the pattern maker, based on his or her experience and the technical knowledge possessed by them, the pattern maker will construct the pattern pieces to achieve a garment which resembles the drawing to the maximum. As typically seen in practice, in a design house, around 3 to 4 trials or prototypes are made by the pattern maker before the designer validates the version which he likes the most. For the sake of simplicity, let me show you what the final pattern pieces look like while designing a jacket. For a typical jacket, a typical set of patterns look something like this. This diagram is simply an example and it is not the actual pattern for the drawing which I showed you above. Here we can see this is the front pattern of the jacket. This is the collar, the placement of the buttons. This is the side back pattern. This is the back pattern. And these two pieces are the patterns for the sleeve. When seen like this laid out flat, it's not that obvious for us to be able to imagine that all these pieces can come together to make the final garment, but this is actually how it looks. Once the patterns are designed, they are placed flat out exactly as shown in this picture on the fabric and cut with extreme precision. Once the pattern pieces are cut in fabric, they are treated, stitched, and ironed to produce the final prototype or sample. For viewers who are relatively new to pattern making, this diagram might appear confusing or scary, but let me assure you, as you will learn more about garment construction, this step would not look so scary anymore. So once the patterns are finalized and the sample is finalized, they then need to be sent to the factory or the production unit for manufacturing along with the fabrics. At this stage, the production unit requires a technical file with a technical version of the garment. As I explained before, the technical drawing is extremely precise and follows the exact proportions of the garment as developed by the pattern maker in the pattern pieces. So the pattern maker will also develop the technical drawings along with the technical file describing his choice of sewing techniques, finishings, etc. This is an extremely technical and detailed document and takes weeks to put together. The technical drawing for the original drawing would look something like this. The technical drawings are made either by hand using technical rulers or with the help of a design software, for example, Adobe Illustrator, CorelDRAW, etc. So once the production unit receives the technical documents, they produce a first sample to be validated by the designer. Here we see the finished sample produced by the manufacturer. Once the designer is satisfied by the final sample, full scale production is launched. It is important to remember that at each stage of the production process, there are different players and collaborators who come together to make the designer's vision a reality. For these third parties, it is impossible to look into the designer's brain and divinate what they are thinking. Hence, documents like technical file, technical sketch, mood board, trend board are prepared for efficient communication between all these different players. Hence, a designer is expected to have some basic pattern making skills or technical knowledge of garment construction in order to be able to efficiently design clothes. Till now, we saw the technical and construction aspect of the design process and the different players working on the construction side of the garment. In the next chapters, we will explore the more creative and fun side of fashion design, the creative research, and the different documents required at the research and communications stage for different players.